Shabbat Shalom. There's a story from our Tanakh, from the book of Shmuel Bet, or 2 Samuel, and it's one that I haven't heard talked about much in shul, so here we go. At some point in the biblical narrative, the Ark of the Covenant, which is the box that contained the Ten Commandments. It's actually talked about in our Parshat this morning. We're told that Moses makes this box. The Ark of the Covenant is stolen by an enemy of the Israelites, a group called the Pelishtim, the Philistines. They capture the Ark, they take it back to their own temple, and while it's in their possession, they are afflicted by horrible punishments. In the major Philistine city of Ashdod, where the ark is kept, we're told that the people develop horrible tumors all over their bodies. And then a plague of rodents is sent to terrify and destroy them. Naturally, the Philistines quickly realize that the ark is not worth all the grief that they are experiencing, so they return the ark back to the Jewish people. And King David plans a huge parade to celebrate the return of the Ark to Jerusalem. Now, what happens next is very interesting. I think it falls into the category of you can't make this stuff up. The text tells us that during this big parade of the Ark back into Jerusalem, we're told that King David is actually leading the charge. But instead of wearing his traditional kingly garb, the Tanakh tells us that he is dressed in the clothing traditionally worn by the priests of the time, which would have been an interesting fashion choice for this particular event, but never mind. And apparently, while David is leading this massive parade through the city, and it was massive. The whole town was there. Apparently, they were blasting shofars and trumpets. David was so happy during this event, the text tells us that he began, quote, leaping and dancing for Adonai. So I guess you can imagine that David is doing somersaults or cartwheels or the Macarena or something, all the while he's in front and center of this parade. Now, that is not so bizarre. But while David is dancing, the priestly garments that he was wearing must have slipped off. Can't make this stuff up. Because the text seems to indicate that he accidentally exposed himself during this incident. And we know this because according to the story, David's wife, Michal, she's Saul's daughter, she watches this whole event from her window. I'm going to read you what the text says. This is from 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 20 through 22. When David returns home, she gives him a talking to. This is what she said. When David returns home to bless his own family, Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet him. She said to him in disgust, "How distinguished the king of Israel looked today, shamelessly exposing himself to the servant girls like any other vulgar person might do." David retorted to Michal, "I was dancing before Adonai, who chose me above your father and all his family. He appointed me as the leader of Israel, the people of the Lord, so I celebrate before Adonai. Yes, and I am willing to look even more foolish than this, even to be humiliated in my own eyes. But those servants' girls you mentioned will indeed think I am distinguished." It's a quote. Like I said, you can't make this stuff up. Now, why am I sharing this story with you? Well, I was reminded of this particular biblical anecdote when I was looking at a news article the other day, and the name of the article was "Freed Hostage Taken from Music Festival During Hamas Attack Returns to the Dance Floor to Celebrate Life." If you read the article, it discusses Noah Argamani, who was taken from the Nova Music Festival by Hamas on October 7th, and she was later freed in a heroic and very daring recovery mission led by the IDF just in June, a couple months ago. And the article talks about how Noah and her father recently attended a dance party in Israel, and clips of her dancing with her father made news outlets across the country, subsequently all across the world. And after facing criticism for dancing and celebrating while Israel is still at war and hostages are still being held by terrorists, Noah gave the following response. She says, quote, "It's true that it's not ideal to have this party while there's still a war going on, with our soldiers still on the battlefield and 109 hostages still in Gaza, including my partner Avinatan Or, whom I miss terribly." She continues, "But I'm happy to celebrate life itself with all of you. We must appreciate every day of this life, and we should celebrate every moment we are here." While she spoke, a large banner hung behind her in which the words, "We will dance again," were proudly displayed. I've thought a lot about this article, about Noah's actions and her words. And I've wondered, is the criticism of her dancing warranted? Is her response valid? Well, because I'm a rabbi, I tend to view these things in light of other parts of our holy texts. And I was particularly fascinated by what I found in our Haftorah for the week, which Susan read so beautifully just a moment ago. In this selection from the prophet Isaiah, the Navi, the prophet, speaks on behalf of God. And Isaiah tells us, quote, "Yet thus says Adonai, captives shall be taken from a warrior, and spoil shall be retrieved from a tyrant. For I will contend with your adversaries, and I will deliver your children." I think these words are beautiful and poignant because they emphasize what the world seems to have forgotten, or what others don't seem to understand. You can kill us, you can hurt us, you can even capture us, but the God of the Jewish people will enable us to dance again. This happens time and time again. We saw this with the Philistines when they captured the ark and held it hostage, and their idolatrous temple dedicated to their false god Dagon. As I mentioned earlier, Hashem pummeled them with plagues until they finally relented and gave us the ark back. And when we got it back, King David danced with such joy, such pleasure, such simcha, that even when his clothing fell off and he was exposed, he didn't care. Noah Argamani was captured just because she was a Jew attending a music festival. And the world dares to criticize her for dancing. But she knows something that we all should know. The moment we stop dancing, that is when the terrorists win. The day that we stop living our lives, thankful, jubilant for each precious moment that we are granted our freedom, the hour in which we no longer have anything to live for, that is when we truly lose. It is said that Yahya Sinwar, the new top Hamas leader, is cowering underground in Gaza terror tunnels surrounded by our hostages. By the way, he's Hamas's new top leader because all of their other leaders have been blown to smithereens by Israel. And according to a news report released earlier this week, one of the top reasons that hostage negotiations have stalled is because Sinwar wants a guarantee that he will be allowed to live after this theoretical hostage exchange. That's one of the conditions, that he must remain alive. Ironically, Sinwar knows what our Haftorah knows. Captives shall be taken from a warrior, and spoil shall be retrieved from a tyrant. Sinwar might be evil, but he's not stupid. And living in proximity to Jews has taught him what has taken other evil men years to understand. That you can afflict us, you can kill us, take our children hostage, but we will eventually triumph. It seems that even Sinwar knows that the Jewish people will dance again. Friends, tonight we will gather here in our synagogue, and we'll join together with other friends and perhaps with our family, and we'll hear a comedian tell jokes. Hopefully we'll all get a much-needed laugh. And before you know it, we'll celebrate the high holidays together. And one glorious day, on Simchat Torah, we'll even take out our Sifrei Torahs out of the ark and we'll dance with them. And we'll parade ourselves through the shul declaring the holiness of our sacred books. And if I'm being honest, I can't wait to do this, because the sages tell us that out of death comes life. Friends, we must continue to laugh, we must continue to dance, and we must continue to live. Because, to quote Noah Argamani, we should celebrate every moment that we are here together. Shabbat Shalom.